Hi, and welcome to our digital poster presentation, Coalitional Futures, the Necessity of Cross-Country Solidarity and Trans Liberation Movements. I'm Finn Johnson. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm a current doctoral student in Women, Gender, and Sexuality Studies at Oregon State University.
I'm Brody Parrish Craig. I use they, them pronouns. I am a professor at Northwest Arkansas Community College, and I'm also a writer and an activist.
Okay, I'm going to move us into some quick information about anti-trans legislation in the US. So there's 351 anti-trans bills in the US currently. These are specifically anti-trans and not targeting the broader LGBTQIA plus community. You can check out tracktranslegislation.com for more information. These bills are currently targeting the following issues: access to public spaces, identification restrictions, healthcare bans and restrictions, banning the usage of public funds for gender affirming care, health insurance coverage restrictions, athletics bans, trans-inclusive curriculum restrictions, and non-discrimination protections. So I want to give you guys some steps to effective coalition building that have been useful to me in the past. One's to identify shared axes of interest. This does not have to be a shared end goal of your activist efforts. Also, to understand that an ethics of incommensurability, it may be necessary for working together across differences. This basically means that your interests can diverge at a certain point, and that's okay. Coalitions are most effective when approached through the lens of intersectionality. By ensuring that one identity group is not overrepresented within the coalition can avoid dominant identity group politics and polarization. You need to utilize your networks. Accountability is a must. Always recognize best intent while acknowledging ramifications. Do away with hierarchies. Hierarchies create imbalances in coalition efforts. And center the voices of those who are most marginalized within a coalition and actively work to challenge and not contribute to systems of oppression within the coalition. Before we get started with Brody's part, I just want to acknowledge that Brody and I grew up together in Louisiana and have done a lot of things together, including transitioning together. So by viewing our coalitional work together as through queer and trans kinship models and ethics of care, I can see that Brody's fight is always going to be my fight. And using queer and trans kinship models and ethics of care will help bridge the gap between regional struggles and help people to focus on the fact that like all of our fights are a united effort against fighting transphobia.
Thanks, Finn. So for my part of the presentation, we're going to focus in on my home state of Arkansas. I lived here almost a decade. So this slide, you will see a lot of those anti-trans legislation and bills that are happening this legislative session in Arkansas so far. And this session will continue through June. So I'm sure we'll see more as well. So what I specifically want to focus on is I think sometimes, and I'm sure Finn can attest to this as well, growing up in Louisiana, we see the South as a place where organizing isn't happening, or maybe trans people don't exist, or maybe we should move and all these things. And so I want to really focus on Intransitive, which is a trans-led organization across the state of Arkansas that has built some really great coalitions and that have had results in our state of Arkansas that I haven't always seen happening in other states facing these bills. So specifically in 2021, there was the bill HB 1570 introduced during legislative session. And while it was overridden and is now currently caught up in court proceedings, it was vetoed by our Republican governor. So we were able to successfully pressure a Republican governor at that time, Asa Hutchinson, to veto this anti-trans youth healthcare bill, even though it was overwritten long-term. And I believe this is the only state in the United States that saw a bill like this, where this veto of a Republican governor happened. So this year, gearing up for the legislative session, Intransitive actually built a Defend Autonomy campaign and a coalition model that first met in December 2022. You see a tiny picture in the corner where you can see some of our faces from that meeting, and over 30 orgs, both local orgs and national orgs, are a part of that coalition to defend autonomy and respect bodily autonomy throughout our shared social justice work. So a lot of the orgs in this coalition are not inherently trans or LGBTQ specific, but we all believe in the cause of bodily autonomy and are able to work together against these bills. So this session, one of the bills that was introduced, in fact, the first anti-trans bill we saw was SB 43, which is an anti-drag bill similar to those that just passed in Tennessee, that basically also criminalizes the ability for trans people to exist in public spaces And while that bill is still moving through committees and things like that right now, we were successfully able to gut that bill as a community. And there's no longer any reference to biological sex or gender identity or all of these different things that were in the bill before. Like if you wear 2 pieces of clothing, then you count as doing drag. None of that is in the bill anymore. It still exists, but the harm in this bill is specifically restricted to semi-nude performances, which is not, I would still like for it to go away, but it's a dramatic improvement from what we've seen as the same bill, gets passed in other states. And I believe that this is because of the movement work that is happening in Arkansas, that Intransitive has been building for years now in our home state.
We want to offer an opportunity for you all to build coalition with us. So you can find our email addresses here, as well as Intransitive's information. And we can also make these slides available to you upon request. Thanks.
Thanks.